G'day. Well, some amazing goings on today here in Monza with the safety car ending up in the barrier at Parabolica. What happened, you cry? Well, the safety car and the medical car have an hour every Thursday to just test out the track. And of course, they've resurfaced this track, done a lot of work to the curbs. And Bert Mailander, the legendary safety car driver, was behind the wheel of the Aston Martin and just doing lap after lap. Then he gets to the Parabolica and fails to take the turn and ends up across the gravel and into the barrier. Now, I didn't see the incident. In fact, I was in pit lane when my son, who was in the media centre right here looking at one of these screens, messages me and says, "You better get down to the Parabolica. The safety car's had an off." So I have to grab a long lens and then run. It's probably every bit of 600 metres to get down there in some very hot conditions. And I finally arrive, and this is the scene that I'm greeted with. Now, getting this car rescued is no easy feat because unlike an F1 car where they can normally latch onto the top, this has no such facility. So first of all, they brought this vehicle in to try and tow it out. That didn't work. This vehicle was the second one on the scene. They connected a strap to the front of the car through the little tow hook thing and dragged it out enough so that they could use the other vehicle to pull it out of the gravel. Didn't roll so well, and as you can see, there was a lot of damage to the car. Luckily, they have a spare car. Well, they don't have a spare car now, do they? Now, this gentleman here from DHL was not far away from the scene. I had a chat with him, and he told me that he heard this screeching noise and then a big bang as the car hit the barriers. He raced out to have a look and saw Bert Mailander getting out of the car, grabbing his leg, saying, "My leg, my leg." Now, I've checked up this afternoon, and apparently Bernd is okay, and good thing too, because he's got a function to do tonight. But I'll be interested to see how he measures up at that particular function. When was the last time a safety car has ended up like that? I don't know. I've done a little bit of research and couldn't find too much, but you, avid F1 fans, may know a little bit more than me. So perhaps if you know when the last time a safety car was unsafe and ending up in a barrier, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Now, until that crash happened, Franco Colapinto was going to be my main story, but I think that has certainly eclipsed Franco's very first day at the track as an F1 driver. He got here very early, one of the first drivers to arrive. Luckily, I got here just before him, taking these shots of the young Argentinian as he came into the paddock this morning. He was greeted by a number of the Williams social media crew, keen to document his very first entry as an F1 driver. He's guaranteed 9 races I guess is anyone guaranteed anything, but he's certainly earmarked for 9 races. Halfway through the day, though, I followed him out to the MP Motorsports motorhome in the F2 paddock, which luckily is right across from the F1 paddock. He was warmly embraced there. He was followed by a Netflix crew, so I imagine you'll see vision from this encounter in the series next year. Of course, with Franco being pushed up to F1, that left a hole for MP Motorsports. Well, they have a new driver, F3 driver, Olli Goethe. And when I was down there, this is the first time I've ever seen the car as just a basic shell. This is it, carbon fibre. And they were wrapping it with orange vinyl for obviously this weekend. Straight after that, Franco left for the media pen. Now, there's a new protocol here when it comes to interviews. And you might remember in the past, the drivers would advertise they're going to be taking questions, say, for 15 minutes, normally at the back of the garage or in front of a signboard near the hospitality suite. Well, that's not happening anymore. What's happening instead? And this I find quite amazing. The drivers go to this particular spot in the TV media pen. Then all of the media line up to ask one question. They don't bring their own camera crew. There is one camera that takes all the vision and audio, and then the broadcasters get that particular vision given to them to use in their broadcast. Now, I imagine a lot of the reporters aren't too happy about this. It's certainly radically different than what they had before, and the teams, I worry, perhaps aren't getting what they would want in terms of sponsor exposure. But normally they'd stand in front of a screen like this, and all the team sponsors would be clearly visible behind them. That's not the case here. Behind the drivers is an F1 digital screen. So F1 gets to determine what goes on that screen. Maybe, and I'm not sure, down the track, the teams will say, listen, we want our sponsors when our drivers are up there being interviewed. But I did stop for Daniel Ricciardo, Franco Colapinto. He had the biggest crowd by far, as I thought he would have today, because it's a pretty rare occurrence when a rookie driver gets the nod 5/8 the way through the season. Now, if you're wondering whether Logan Sargent was in the paddock today, no. I imagine he's just giving this a wide berth for as long as he can. I did see his manager, actually Gary, come into the paddock today, and I was wondering whether Gary was actually going down to clear out Logan's locker, but I don't think that's the case. I think Gary was doing some other work with his partner Harry, who look after George Russell. When I got here this morning, I went out to pit lane to see how the garage was looking for Franco, and I noticed that there was a big hole where his sign should have been, and then about an hour later I was alerted to the fact that they'd spelt his name wrongly, with an O instead of an A here. But that was fixed later on in the morning and promptly put back up. Now, before you start having a crack at Williams, this is not Williams' doing. They have no say in what goes over the garage. That's an F1 thing, I believe. And if it's not F1, it's the race organiser. So don't get cranky with Williams for not knowing the spelling of their brand new driver's name. Now, Ferrari's arrival today caught me by surprise. This is an interesting track in so much as it's a park, and the traffic coming in goes along a dedicated route. So we're standing out the front of the paddock, and next thing you know, we hear the sirens of a police bike, we see the gates open, police bike comes in, and in comes, first of all, a car with its boot open, trunk, as the Americans would say, and there's a camera rig in the back. Then we see this silver Ferrari roll up with Charles driving, and in the passenger seat, Karun Chandhok from Sky Sports. They were doing a piece for their show on Sunday. So Charles gets out. I don't know who this guy is. He manages to quickly weasel in for a photo, and then he walks in, obviously, with a whole lot of TV crew around. And leading those two cars, by the way, was Charles' security guy. Did Carlos get the same treatment? No, he didn't. He was in a nice Ferrari, but he didn't have quite the level of media interest when he arrived. Something a little bit different now. We don't often see camera women at the track. There are a couple. There's one lady who works for Netflix. But I came across Marta, who works with Regine from Viaplay in Norway. Now, they were out doing an interview with Franco Colapinto's, old teammate, Dennis Hauger. And interestingly, Marta actually uses one of these heavy rigs to take a lot of the weight off your shoulders when you are filming people. I went down and had a chat with Juan from ESPN. He is an Argentinian. Oh, and thank you too to the young lady who gave me my Argentinian badge. Now, this is Juan. He's from ESPN in Argentina. And he said normally they bring 2 or 3 people to a race. But after Franco nabbing the Williams seat, today they have 12. And he said there's huge interest in his particular country about this thing. I said, is it front page news? And he said, you bet. So clearly, the Argentine fan base for Formula One is set to skyrocket pretty quickly. Now have a look at this. This is Max Verstappen enjoying a drink in pit lane today. What is going on here, you cry? Well, Max was actually doing a commercial for sponsor Heineken at the track. And when he left the Red Bull Energy station, there were about a dozen people surrounding him. And the walk to pit lane was such that it was almost impossible to get a picture of him. But of course, out at pit lane, things spread out a little bit, and these pictures were possible. I guess you'll be seeing that coming up shortly somewhere on the internet. Now, in the press conference, Lewis and Charles were seated next to each other, and Lewis was asked what reaction he normally gets here in Monza, and does he see it changing, obviously, with him going to Ferrari. And he responded by saying that he's normally pretty well received here, but I can tell you that come next year, with Lewis and this crowd, it's going to be absolutely crazy. In fact, I had a chat with a number of people on the way out, some Ferrari fans, on what they thought of Lewis coming to Ferrari.
I think it's great.
We're excited. We love Lewis, so Forza Ferrari.
I want Carlos back.
I think that's the greatest of all time.
Grande acquisto. Buon biscotto.
Thank you, Mark. Anyone speak English? Anyone speak English here? Anyone speak English down here?
I think it's a good thing for Ferrari, but I love Carlos and it's a bit sad.
If he can win the 8th championship with Ferrari, he'll be a legend.
Lewis Hamilton.
No, Checo Perez! Checo!
So certainly from this little straw poll, the vast majority of Ferrari fans are very excited about Lewis coming to their team. What about Esteban Ocon's outfit today? Prada, looking sexy. In fact, I didn't see him come in. There was a bit going on this morning. The first thing I saw was the back of his girlfriend, Flavie Bala. At the time, I thought, right, I better get a picture of her for Women of the Paddock. And when I got in front, I realised, oh, that's Esteban's girlfriend. There's Esteban. And at a number of races this year, Esteban has come dressed in some out there outfits. Not out there like Lewis Hamilton's white outfit last race, but certainly he's making an effort in the fashion stakes. As I've said time and time again, this is where we're going with Formula One. It will be a full-on fashion show. And what did you think of these new outfits? It's funny because the Ferrari drivers, who are renowned for red, haven't raced in red at this track, for 2 or 3 years now. Why do they do that here? Of course, this weekend they're in carbon black. Well, it's not uncommon for us to get an invite to a hospitality suite in the paddock. And if you happen to be a guest today in Aston Martin, I imagine for the rest of the race and probably forever, your coffees come out with an Aston Martin logo. It's produced by a machine and it is impressive. For those of you who've been to Monza, this is something new, a roundabout here with a nice sign and a new underpass. Question for you, have you subscribed to my channel? If not, why not? Please hit the subscribe button now. At the very least, like this video. It does help with the algorithm. And for a whole lot of extra content and stuff, click around here. Thanks for watching and stay passionate. What about you, Lewis Hamilton?
My English is a shit.